Good morning, Western Washington, and happy Saturday. I'm Matthew Fab with Western Washington Weather, and today we're going to take a look at our ongoing heat wave here. We're going to take a look at the update for temperature forecasts and some smoke that will be moving across parts of the area. So starting here with the satellite imagery, you can see we have some monsoon moisture-related high cirrus clouds here and some alto cumulus clouds and stuff like that moving north into the area. We're going to have some partly cloudy skies today, but it's still going to be quite hot. Definitely going to be hot, but these clouds aren't really going to do all that much to bring down those temperatures besides maybe 1 to 2 degrees. We're still going to be in the 90s across a lot of the area today. And then we also have some smoke. This is from the Island Creek fire out here in central Idaho, in the Idaho Panhandle. There's the Flat Fire down here northeast or northwest of Bend, Oregon, and then we do have a little bit of smoke already coming off the Bear Gulch Fire in Mason County, and we're going to take a look at how all that smoke is going to kind of combine and bring some hazy skies across the area into the next couple days here. So let's dive into our alerts right now. The extreme heat warning was extended to include the Seattle metro area, including Seattle, Tacoma, and points east like Bellevue and Auburn and stuff like that, in addition to the foothills and the mountain valleys. And then the fire weather watch in the Cascades was upgraded to a red flag warning, as it was in the Olympic Mountains, including the Bear Gulch fire. And then we have that heat advisory in effect for the lowlands there from Seattle north to Bellingham, and then from Olympia southward toward where that extreme heat warning kicks in again from the Cowlitz County line down into the Portland metro area. And then we have the heat advisory in effect for the inland areas of the coast. This red flag warning is very significant here for the Cascades because the fire danger really is high, and we'll take a look at that in a moment as well. So this is a look at high temperatures yesterday. So you can see across parts of the Seattle metro area, we got into the mid to upper 80s. From Seattle southward there, upper 80s to low 90s. And out on the coast, even got into the upper 70s to mid 80s. You can see 86 in Hoquiam and Quileute, 77 on the beach there in Ocean Shores. As we take a look here a little bit further south, 101 degrees in Portland, 97 in Longview, 92 up there in Chehalis. Take a look at Long Beach, 80 degrees there on the Long Beach Peninsula, 82 in Astoria, and some 90s here in the Coast Range. And then going up north toward the Canadian border, you can see upper 70s to low 80s there on Whidbey Island, so a little bit cooler there. 86 there near Sequim, and then as you go up I-5, you're looking at 83 in Bellingham, 86 in Ferndale, and then 93 down there in Surrey, British Columbia, 89 over in Lyndon. So a pretty warm day across the area, but we're going to just ratchet these temperatures up today. So we'll take a look at that here in just a moment. And then taking a look at low temperatures overnight, we actually cooled down quite a bit here. 63 was the low there at SeaTac, 61 at Payne Field, and then even out toward Olympia got down into the low 50s. So there was actually some pretty nice cooling last night, but that may not be the case tonight as we get a little bit warmer during the day here and we get some clouds and some smoke and stuff moving through. And then you can see where those lows were pretty warm, with it being 100 degrees in Portland last night. Most of the Portland metro area only got into the mid 60s to low 70s for those lows. You can see 72 degree low there along I-5 just north of Portland. So it definitely was not cool across all of the area. So here's that extreme heat warning, including the east side, city of Seattle, and lowlands of Pierce and southern King counties. Hot conditions with high temperatures ranging from the upper 80s to mid 90s and low temperatures in the mid 60s, posing a major risk of heat-related illnesses. That is in effect until 5 a.m. Tuesday. And then that heat advisory for the rest of the lowlands, hot conditions with temperatures in the mid 80s to 90s and low temperatures mostly in the 60s with the moderate risk of heat-related illnesses. And again, in effect till 5 a.m. Tuesday. So you just really got to be careful, especially if you know someone or are someone who has a hard time with heat. So now taking a look at our overall pattern, you see this ridge over the southwest United States. That is what's influencing our weather right now and bringing this heat wave. You can see that ridge remains pretty powerful all the way through Sunday and Monday and into Tuesday before we start to get some troughing, start to move offshore here as we go into Wednesday and into Thursday. And the location of this is really what's going to determine if it actually does anything. If it moves inland a little bit, we may be able to get some thunderstorms moving up across the area. But this forecast has been kind of uncertain and it's been flip-flopping around. This is where this forecast ends here, 11 p.m. Thursday night, and you have this trough offshore, southerly flow across western Washington. But we aren't really sure yet at how this is going to do in terms of producing any thunderstorms and stuff like that. So stay tuned over the next couple days to kind of figure this out, and I'll keep you guys all updated as to if we're going to get thunderstorms across western Washington. Now taking a look at temperatures, we'll see the influence of that ridge here. So these are high temperatures today on Saturday. From Seattle northward, you have highs in the mid 80s to mid 90s, hottest east of I-5. Some of the areas like Whidbey and the San Juans will stay a little bit cooler. Some areas on the island still get up into the low 90s there, but most of the islands in the mid 70s to low 80s. That you can see there from Seattle southward down toward Tacoma, highs in the upper 80s to mid 90s today. 90s should be pretty widespread across this area. And then from Olympia southward to Portland, highs in the mid 90s to low 100s. 98 there in Longview, 102 showing up for Portland and Vancouver. So a really, really hot day down there. And then on the coast there, a little bit of offshore flow, mostly sunny. Those clouds will be moving through, so you could knock a couple degrees off these temperatures across the area. But the coast should likely get into the mid 70s to mid 80s, and save those mid 80s for inland there. 81 in Hoquiam, so a little bit cooler than yesterday, but 86 up there toward Quileute and Forks. Going into Sunday, we cool down a little bit on the coast there with some onshore flow returning, bringing those temperatures back to the mid 70s to low 80s. And then you can see inland here from Seattle northward, highs again in the mid 80s to low 90s. Still hotter east of I-5 there, and some of the islands staying in the 70s. And then from Seattle southward, highs in the low to mid 90s yet again. Cooler near the waters in the upper 80s there, but Seattle and Tacoma and Olympia likely in the low to mid 90s. And then from Olympia southward there on Sunday, highs in the mid to upper 90s. Portland showing up at 99, 96 in Longview, 95 in Olympia and Chehalis. So very warm across the area. As we go into Sunday. This is our second day of 90s. Then as we go into Monday, you can see that onshore flow really kicks in there on the coast, bringing highs back to the upper 60s to mid 70s. However, inland, that we don't really see the influence of that just yet, except from Seattle northward. You see those highs drop a little bit to the upper 70s near the water to the upper 80s to low 90s in those valleys and inland. And then from Seattle southward, highs remain in the upper 80s to low 90s, maybe some mid 80s near the water, but still another very hot day on Monday. And then from Olympia down to Portland, highs in the low 90s, maybe some mid 90s there around Portland and Vancouver. But otherwise, we are starting to cool a little bit here on Monday, but still very hot for this time of year. Then as we go into Tuesday, you can see from Seattle northward, those highs drop to the low to mid 80s. From Seattle southward, we go to the mid to upper 80s, but still 86 in Seattle, 87 in Tacoma, and 88 in Olympia there on Tuesday, so still quite warm. And then from Olympia southward to Portland, highs in the upper 80s to low 90s. Portland and Vancouver at 91 there. The coast continues to cool, highs in the low 70s there, maybe some mid 70s inland, but definitely a cooler time there across the coast. And then as we get to Wednesday, the coast drops to the upper 60s to low 70s, and inland we do start to drop finally into the mid 80s. You can see from Seattle northward on Wednesday, highs in the upper 70s to low 80s. From Seattle southward, highs in the low to mid 80s. Could still get a few 85 plus readings south of Tacoma. And then from Olympia southward there on Wednesday, highs in the mid to upper 80s and nearing 90 again around southwest Washington and the Portland metro area. And then as that forecast gets more uncertain as we go into Thursday, we may remain in the mid 80s, but we may be a little bit cooler, maybe a little bit warmer. So we'll have to watch and see. So now taking a look at those low temperatures. So Sunday morning low temperatures here, you can see north of Seattle, those lows in the upper 50s to low 60s. But look around the Seattle metro area, 66 in Seattle, 65 there, and about 65 there in Tacoma. And then look at Portland, 67 to 70. So you really have some uncomfortable overnight lows across the Seattle and Portland metro areas there. As we go into Monday morning, you can see the same thing, mid 60s for the Seattle metro area, upper 60s, low 70s for the Portland metro. Going into Tuesday, that just kind of amplifies itself as that heat continues. You can see again mid to upper 60s, Seattle Metro, upper 60s, low 70s for Portland Metro. Even the areas outside of this likely staying around 60. As we go into Wednesday morning, some of that onshore flow cools us down a little bit. Mid 60s still for Seattle, but mid 60s now for Portland, so it's dropped a few degrees. And then as we go into Thursday, you see we get a bit more seasonable, low to mid 60s for Portland, low 60s for Seattle, upper 50s starting to peak in there around Tacoma. And then as we go into Friday morning, we get back to seasonable with upper 50s to low 60s across most of the area. But these few days here, so like Sunday morning, Monday morning, Tuesday, and Wednesday morning, this is not really great to see because we're going to have these really warm days, and then a lot of folks don't have air conditioning, and so you get these low temperatures at night, not even getting below 65 degrees. You don't have a good temperature recovery there, so it just remains really warm across the area and people's houses and stuff like that, and it can make for some pretty uncomfortable conditions for some places, especially multi-story apartments and stuff like that. So now taking a look at relative humidity, there's a reason there's a red flag warning in the Cascades and Olympics, and that is just because the humidity is just so incredibly low. So as we go into, this is 5 p.m. today on the high resolution rapid refresh model, you can see the humidity in the Olympics there in the 30% range, around the Bear Gulch Fire 25 to 35%. Look at the lowlands, 30% in Bellingham, and then from Everett southward, that humidity between 15 and 25%. That's really low for this area. And then you can see the Cascades likely 10 to 25% there. Look at the Portland Metro, 15 to 20% humidity. And then as we go into Sunday afternoon, it just happens again. And you can see there as we go Sunday afternoon there, the Cascades likely 20 to 30% humidity. Same thing in the Olympics there around the Bear Gulch Fire, and then the lowlands between 20 and 40% again. So really dry for the lowlands. But look at Eastern Washington. You're looking like 10 to 15% humidity down there. Even some single digits around Pullman and Lewiston and Yakima, and even up toward Moses Lake and stuff like that. So it's dry in Western Washington for sure. That humidity getting into the 25% range is really low, but look at Eastern Washington, you're getting all the way into the single digits. And that is why that red flag warning is up. Speaking of the red flag warning, this is the Bear Gulch Fire here. You can see we're getting some heat signatures on the north side of that fire. That's what's producing some of the smoke we saw in the satellite loop earlier in the video. All this pink is a red flag warning, so the entirety of the Bear Gulch Fire is in that red flag warning, which means that it's possible for some very significant fire growth here over the next couple of days. As this red flag warning continues, we'll have to watch to see how the acreage updates here on the Bear Gulch Fire. It will likely increase as it burns northward here. We may get some burning on some other sides of the fire as well, but this north side looks like where some of the latest activity has been centered there. So now looking at vertically integrated smoke, this is smoke aloft. You see that smoke from the Island Creek Fire in Idaho and the Flat Fire down there near Bend. And as we go through today, some of that smoke from Idaho pushes north, and look at all the smoke that comes off the Flat Fire as we go into this afternoon. A little bit getting off the Bear Gulch Fire, but not all that much. But then watch this smoke from the Oregon Fire, because that kind of just circles around the area. We get a little bit of smoke aloft into Western Washington early tomorrow morning, and that just kind of hangs out. So it may shave a very small bit off some of the temperatures through Sunday, but it will likely not do all that much because it's a very light layer of smoke. But then look, as we go through Sunday night into Monday, a ton more smoke comes off that Flat Fire there, bringing noticeable smoke aloft into Portland, and then that starts to push north into Seattle. And if we look at surface smoke here, you can see not all that much, mainly across eastern Washington. But when you go back to that smoke aloft, look at all that smoke from the Flat Fire. Noticeable smoke aloft for parts of Portland and areas from Olympia and Tacoma southward. But that is pushing north into western Washington as we go into Monday morning. So it'll be interesting to see if that does have an impact on the temperatures. Once you get to these levels of smoke, you can definitely knock a couple degrees off your high temperatures. And sometimes that's nice, but it also kind of keeps the temperatures up at night because it's hard for that heat to radiate back out when you have all this smoke over top. So stay tuned for more information on the smoke. I'll definitely be keeping you guys posted on this over the next few videos here. And then again, taking a look at our 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, August 28th to September 1st, so next week, you can see still an above average signal for the northwest, but look at this precipitation signal. That is a good sign. We'll have to watch and kind of see what this means, because if this is accompanied by a lot of lightning, it really isn't that good. But we'll have to continue watching our extended forecast to see if we are going to get this above average precipitation that we are seeing on this outlook here. So yeah, thank you all very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe here to Western Washington Weather. Been gaining a lot of subscribers lately. I'd love to see that continue. And also be sure to follow me for heat wave updates and stuff on Blue Sky on Twitter and the Western Washington Weather Facebook group. And links to all of these are in the description below. So thank you all very much for watching, and stay tuned for the next few days, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.